Alright, so it's day 2 in Amman, and we're starting the day with falafel from this place behind me, which is called Al Quds, and it dates back to 1966. And we just got 2 falafel sandwich wraps for 1.20 dinar. It's about £1.50, and gonna save them for later. So today the plan is we're just heading down Rainbow Street after our food tour with Omar yesterday. We're going to be checking out some of the older civilizations of Jordan. What that means is we're heading to the museums and we're heading to the Roman sites. We're going to see who really founded one of the oldest cities in the world. We're back on the famous Rainbow Street. And we're heading up some more hills today. We head to the museum. This is the street to come to if you're into your beers. Yesterday we got asked about 4 or 5 times before midday if we wanted a beer. Just come into a Jordanian liquor store, see what they got. I wasn't expecting to find alcohol around here, so readily available. A lot of Middle Eastern countries I've been to, it's always hidden away. But here it's just all on display. You get Jägermeister, you get your gin, you get your Beefeater. 50 quid for a bottle of gin. Ooh, especially Beefeater, that's a little bit. Pride of Wembley. Look at that. Ooh, that's the rough stuff. Russian vodka. Zabrowski, that's quite cheap. Yeah. Jordanian wines. Hey.
Hi.
It's okay to film?
No problem. Take your time.
Where's the beer?
Yes.
Oh, the beer too?
Yes.
Oh, nice. You get your Amstel. Petra beer, 8%. Nice. And a fine selection of wines. It's not even midday, so we'll come back later maybe and get a couple of beers to try. Alright, so we're heading on our way to find the Jordanian Museum. And now we're heading down into one of the valleys in Amman. As you can see, it's a beautiful city, but it's bloody difficult to traverse by foot and truck having a car. But yeah, people like just live along these steep embankments. Like, you see all these houses, someone's been making bread. Alright, so we made it to the Jordanian Museum. This is like the National Museum of Jordan. And outside there's the Hejaz railway wagon. Now the Hejaz railway used to connect the entirety of the Middle East. Like, it was an Ottoman project. And it pretty much ran all the way from Damascus to Medina in Saudi Arabia. And it was built by the Ottomans to allow Muslims to basically get to Saudi Arabia, what was then the Ottoman Empire, but now Saudi Arabia, to perform the Hajj, which obviously every Muslim has to do at least once in their life. This is one of the old wagons. It looks like a freight wagon. I'll actually be talking more about this in my next video, because we're going to be following the Hejaz Railway all the way south to Wadi Rum once we pick up a car in the next couple of days. This train line would be incredible if they brought it back. Like, you could travel all the way from Damascus to Saudi Arabia, through Jordan, through Palestine. There were branch lines to what's now Israel, all over the place. And since the fall of Assad in Syria, the Turkish government have been talking about reconnecting the railway and building a line to Istanbul, which would be the original route of the Hejaz Railway. And that would be absolutely incredible. Like, you could travel all the way overland by train to the Middle East, to Damascus, to Amman. But yeah, it's such a divided region that I don't know if they'll ever allow the trains to cross the borders, but we'll see. We can hope. So I'm just inside the museum now, just whispering, because it's a quiet place. The reason I wanted to come here was to see the Ain Gazelle statues, or one of the reasons. And these statues were found on the edge of Amman, and they believe that these are some of the earliest examples of human beings that settled the city, or effectively founded the city. So we're talking about 9,000 BC. So what's that, about 11,000 years ago? And they found these, that you can see here, these 2-headed statues in the 1980s on a village that's now on the outskirts of the city. And they believe that these were the first Neolithic peoples that ever called this place home. So I never really appreciated just how ancient Jordan is. And this is like a a stele from the Moabite era, which is like an era from like 2000 BC maybe, or 1300 BC, according to the information. When the Egyptians basically dominated this area, so the ancient Egyptians came through here. This is a map of what the kingdoms would have looked like. So you can see the modern borders, which were drawn by the British and French. And then Amman was part of the kingdom of Ammon, or the Ammonites. And then southern Jordan, we'll be heading the next couple of days, was Moab, and then Edom, and Palestine on up there as well. Now we're going to hop in an Uber. You can hear the calls to prayer behind me. Midday prayers, I think. But now we're going to hop in an Uber and head up one of the big hills to the Amman Citadel, where you can see some ruins and yeah, eat some falafel sandwiches, as always. Cool, so we just took an Uber up to the top of Amman Citadel, and as you can see, right on top of one of those 7 hills of Amman. And we'll check it out in a second, but you can see a little bit of it behind me there on the walls. And a couple of thousand years old, this was once the capital of the Ammonite kingdom, which was after the Neolithic guys that built those or made those plaster statues that I showed you in the museum. The Ammonites were the ones that kind of properly built up Amman into like an ancient city. And as far as my history goes, I believe that the Ammonites were then taken over by Alexander the Great. And after that, you kind of had Greco-Roman influence. After Alexander, it became a Roman city, and it was named Philadelphia. This is a lot older than the one in the US, I guess. But yeah, we'll check out some of the ruins here. After the Romans, I believe the Umayyads came, and there should be an Umayyad mosque. We can check it out, and that's when the kind of Islamic era really began, when the region kind of converted to Islam. And yeah, at some point the city became abandoned, and Ottomans arrived, and their capital was somewhere else, not in Amman. And this whole area was just kind of like ruins for a couple of centuries, or small villages and stuff. And it wasn't until the late 19th century, end of the Ottoman era, that a load of Circassian Chechens, like the Chechen guy I spoke to yesterday, they were basically resettled here after a war in the Caucasus region, where sort of Georgia, Dagestan, Chechnya, all those regions are today. They were Muslims, and because of the war with Russia, the Russian Empire took over their land, and they all became refugees. And the Ottoman Empire, which was obviously Muslim, or majority Muslim, welcomed in a lot of the Circassian refugees, a lot of the Chechens, Dagestanis, etc. And yeah, they came to Amman and kind of rebuilt it. And 1921, I believe, this area became a British mandate, and the British made this the capital of Transjordan, which is the country that, or the protectorate that then became the country of Jordan in 1946, I believe, when after World War II, when Jordan declared its independence. And yeah, so a whole lot of people have come through here and made this city what it is today. All right, before we head in, we got these falafel sandwiches that we picked up from Al Qud earlier this morning, which claims to be one of the oldest falafel shops in Amman. So let's check it out and see how it is. Not bad. Probably should have eaten it earlier. Alrighty, so we entrance is not free, but included with the Jordan Pass, which is like the visa on arrival system that also includes entrance to a lot of places. But if you don't have the Jordan Pass, it's only free JODs, Jordanian dinars, to get into this pretty epic ancient site. I mean, up there on the hill, we'll go take a closer look in a bit, but you've got the sort of Roman Herculean arch, which is pretty cool, and then built up on the side of the hill. Like I was saying, one of the 7 hills of Jordan, like many ancient cities, built across 7 hills, like Rome and Istanbul, Constantinople, as it used to be, all built on 7 hills. A sign of an epic ancient city, in my opinion. And down there, you can see the ancient Roman theatre as well, which we'll check out later if we've got time. But yeah, you can just see how, so this was the top, this hilltop is where Amman really began. Cool, so if you name pretty much any ancient empire or civilization, they've at some point in history been here. Just a quick overview. After the Ammonites came the Neo-Assyrian Empire, then the Babylonians, then the Ptolemies, then the then the Seleucids, then the Romans, then the Byzantines, and then the Umayyads. And then after that, it was sporadically used by Bedouins and yeah, until the 19th century when it became the roots of the capital were laid. So yeah, this is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. And these are some seriously impressive ruins. Again, there's barely anyone here, like maybe 10 or 15 tourists. It's a midday and it's just empty. Kind of tells you a lot about the way the tourism industry here has suffered because of the conflict in Palestine. I mean, when Trump was talking about turning Gaza into a fucking resort Riviera, treating it like a hotel, treating the people like a hotel, it's just affected the entire region. I mean, it used to be one of the most visited cities in the world, and it's just very few tourists around. A real shame. But I mean, I'm not even an adventurous traveller really. I mean, I've been to places that are red listed by the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, like Sudan and Iraq. Compared to them, the travel advisories here are almost non-existent still. Like the FCDO labels the entire country of Jordan as green, apart from perhaps maybe some border areas of Syria. There's no travel warnings really against it. But like I was saying yesterday, the newspapers and editors of publications just aren't touching Jordan at the moment because they're worried that the conflict's going to spill over, and that's having a real detrimental effect, obviously, on the number of tourists visiting, on tour guides, on hotels, on car hire, restaurants, absolutely everything. For a country that's already struggling and reliant a lot on aid and hosting, 70% of the population here is refugees, either from Palestine or from Syria or Iraq, from across the Middle East, really. And a country hosting that many refugees that's struggling economically with few resources, tourism was one of the areas, one of the key drivers that could have helped this place flourish, and it has flourished at points in its recent history. But right now, it needs a lot more people to come here and see it. I mean, if you do come here, I mean, you have the place to yourself. I'm not sure if I can really do this justice on the camera, but you can kind of see more of the skyscrapers over this side of the city, more of a modern side of Amman. It's a strange city because whenever you're in one of the valleys, you can't really appreciate the scale of it. You kind of just feel like you're sort of not trapped, but enclosed in, one neighborhood. But this is a city of, hundreds of different neighborhoods that are all sort of sprawling. And apparently a lot of the development happened in the 70s because there were so many refugees coming here from Palestine, I presume after the Six-Day War with Israel. And they sort of settled in a lot of the sort of wider neighborhoods and started expanding the city. But this thing here ahead of me is not quite so modern. This is an Umayyad mosque, and this must date to the 7th or 8th centuries, I believe. And the Umayyads aren't particularly well known in the West. They were a fairly short-lived dynasty, but as far as empire builders go, they were absolutely insane. I believe the empire was probably bigger than the Roman Empire. They built one of the largest contiguous land empires in history. They stretched from all the way east from the Middle East, from here, to what's now Western China, across all of Central Asia, the old Silk Road, parts of what's now India, I believe. Yeah, and in the West, empire stretched as far as Spain. Now walking amongst the Umayyad residential area. It's pretty cool. You can get right into these ruins and walk around them. At least I think I'm supposed to be in here. No railings or anything. But yeah, pretty impressive what's left. And you can see the skyscrapers in the distance there, rising above the old city. You can see an absolutely enormous Jordanian flag. I mean, look, I've been to a lot of contested regions in the world, and you know you've got some political problems in your country or the surrounding countries when you need to have a flag that big. The bigger the flag, the less secure you are of your nationality or nationhood. Yeah, I've just done a little bit of research, and I believe that is the Ragadan flagpole, which reaches 126.8 meters for the Americans out there, 416 feet. And yeah, one of the biggest flags in the Middle East, I think. Unveiled by King Abdullah II of Jordan and visible from as far away as 20 kilometers, which I believe is probably as far as the disputed Israeli-Palestinian territories border. So yeah, it's even built to withstand earthquakes. So a few more interesting facts about giant flagpoles, because I'm not going to lie, I've seen a lot of these around the world. When I was in Azerbaijan a couple of years ago, at the time, I believe that was one of the largest ones, and that reached, oh God, that was, let's see what it says here, Azerbaijan, Baku, that was 191 meters high. Recently, Cairo has built a new one, which is 201 meters high, so a whole 10 meters bigger than Baku. But I mean, it says a lot about the countries that have these ginormous flagpoles, I think. The top list is Egypt, followed by Azerbaijan, Russia, Saudi Arabia as the fourth largest, and Jeddah. Tajikistan somehow managed to pay for one of the largest flagpoles in the world, even though they're also one of the poorest countries in the world, followed by Azerbaijan in number 6, and North Korea, number 7. Iran, Tehran, number 8. Number 9 is Ashgabat in Turkmenistan. Number 10 is Jordan. Well, they're not here anymore. They in Aqaba in the south, they built an even larger flagpole than here, which is 130 meters. So beating the one here by 1 or 2 meters. And you've got India, Jordan, India, UAE, and so on and so on. And the United States comes in at number 16 with the Sheboygan, Wisconsin Acuity flagpole, I believe. So yeah, there's a fascinating story behind a lot of these flagpoles, which I found out when I was in Baku that time, a few years ago now. Apparently there's one British company, I can't remember the name of them, and they carved out a real niche by building these ginormous flagpoles, because it takes a real art to get a freestanding flagpole to stand that high and survive earthquakes and storms and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, I guess they're quite happy that all these dictatorships and, you know, insecure countries, their royalty and prime ministers and presidents are looking to outdo their neighbours with these ginormous flagpoles. Is it a good use of resources? Probably not. Is it interesting geopolitically? Definitely. This wasn't just an Umayyad residence, it was an Umayyad Palace. So this is where the Islamic royalty would have lived. They bathed, eaten, had their harems, everything. And they were conveniently located right next to the mosque. So, you know, you could wake up, put on your royal robes, stroll out, take a walk down here, and do your morning prayers. A lot of these ruins, these ones built by the Umayyads, and then after that came the Abbasids, another Islamic caliphate, and after that the Mamluks and Crusaders, and during the Middle Ages for a few hundred years, a lot of Amman lay crumbling derelicts, ruins, very Ozymandian. And then the Ottomans, they invited in the refugees I was talking about, and you really get a sense that this is a city of crumbling city of ancient ruins and decaying mosques and palaces. And the Circassians would have turned up here, the Chechens, Dagestanis, wherever they came from in the mountains of the Caucasus, and they started to reclaim a lot of these ruins. They started to rebuild from the shells of past civilizations, much like the British did in my home country after the fall of the Roman Empire. And then after Jordan became independent, it really remained a nation of borderlines, really. And Amman is a city of borderlines, a city of different peoples. It's a story of the movement of people from one place to the next, seeking safety or refuge or a place where they can practice their beliefs and live how they want to. And a lot of people found that here in Amman and continue to find that. And I have to say, this is probably historically and today. It feels as if it's one of the most welcoming cities I've probably ever visited, to be honest. All right, so we just finished up at the Citadel, and we're now heading downhill again to the Roman Theatre. So we're just going to cut through some little side streets to get there. And it's proper sunny in Amman now. I'm loving it. That's cool, you can really feel this is like the old town. Of course, you can buy your Palestinian cafes pretty much anywhere here. Still heading down. I love Amman sign. And that is the Roman Theatre ahead. We just found this little antique shop, and I believe that is Saddam Hussein, little Iraqi money. There's tons of it. And I think that's Bashar Assad. All of the dictators. Alright, so this is the Roman Theatre. This is built in the 2nd century AD during the reign of Emperor Antonius Pius. So we're back in downtown, and you can feel the atmosphere change like instantly. We're now like in the valley between the Jebels, the hills, and it's just way more hectic. But yeah, it's a busy city. So this is just a little aside. We're in downtown Amman, and we keep seeing signs for the old signs of Amman Museum. There's actually been 8 or 9 of these signs, and we're just going to go check it out. Apparently it's full of old signs collected from around the Middle East. And oh yeah, we're just walking up the steps so you can see them all here. Pepsi. What these are? It's just
so many
signs. So the first sign was collected in 1986, I believe. And it's all the work of one man. The oldest sign dates back to the 1950s. Free entry. The guy just wants people to come and check out his signs. It's pretty cool. Some interactive exhibitions as well. Very cool. So just on the balcony of the old sign museum. There's signs for every occasion, really. You need a sign for dentists, they've got it. Tires, doctors, ferries, insurance, hotels, sweet shops, you name it, they've got it. Alright, they're closing up, so we're heading out back into the chaos of downtown. So that's pretty much a wrap for today. We've seen all of the ancient history of Jordan, all of the new history, and grab a beer and then call it a day.